Welcome to It's Not You, It's Grief, a safe space to have candid conversations surrounding the many faces of grief. How do you handle the process while moving forward and ultimately getting back to living in the moment? Come on this journey as we navigate grief through the art of storytelling. And now for your host, Ahira Smith.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who is on this channel right now. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Ahira Smith. I am the grief mending coach, and this is another great episode of It's Not You, It's Grief, a podcast where we have candid conversations that talk about grief in terms of navigating through the journey of it itself, heading towards healing and get back to living in the present moment. This is episode 19, everybody. Yes, we're at episode 19, and I have the distinct pleasure of having another great guest. This young man here, I kind of look at him as my nephew because this is one that I didn't go to school with. I know my previous guests have been my classmates, but this is a gentleman I've had the pleasure of working with my former institution of higher education. And this guy is awesome. When I first met him back in 2019, he came in there with such a confident, suave, debonair. He was very professional. I said, oh, this man is about his business. And I so appreciated it. And, we both worked in higher education as an advisor, working with a particular cohort of students, athletes to be exact. And his passion to help others, especially in the realm of athletics, was very noticeable. He was very attentive to student athletes' needs. He had such a commanding presence working with young people that it did not go unnoticed. And I would like to introduce you this gentleman. He is a Philly native. He obtained his bachelor's degree from West Chester University and his master's degree from Temple University. As I mentioned, he has years of experience working as an advisor on a collegiate level, and he happens to be another academic advisor at a high school called Tech Ferrari Charter High School, also in the Philadelphia area. I also happen to know that this gentleman is a distinguished member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. So definitely shout out to my D9 Greek family members out there. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to my guest, my former colleague, my friend, my play nephew, Mr. Jabree Belcher. Hey, Jabree.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I really do appreciate it. We have some good conversations. Let's just keep it 100. So It's never one of those types of conversations where it's like a 5-10 minute conversation and we're out. We actually get into some real deep philosophical real life conversations. And I'm just so appreciative of you joining me and wanting to share your story with me and my audience regarding grief and loss. And I know there's a lot of stuff happening with you in your life on a personal level as well as professional. And so one of the areas that we've talked about is our family dynamics. Nobody's family is perfect. I know mine isn't, I know yours isn't. And the last couple of years have been a little difficult. I think that's a safe way to say it's been challenging. Let me say that it's been challenging for both of us in terms of grief and loss. And so I would love it if you would just be kind enough to share your story in terms of your relationship with your family, particularly with your father. And I'll turn it over to you, brother. Go right ahead.
So as you mentioned before, we have countless conversations. My relationship with my father right now isn't the best. It's not like where I wanted to be. As of right now, we're not even like on speaking terms at the moment. And I think I got to a point now where I've learned to accept my dad for who he is. And does it still bother me that I don't have that relationship with my dad? It does. As much as I could say I accept it, I accept it wholeheartedly. Like deep down, I do still feel a way about it. Sometimes I might get angry when I hear certain things, or I'll get upset, and then it's almost like you mentioned there's like that trauma. Like I think about things of how I was raised and certain things that happened to me like when I was a child, and it just even my dad's 48, so even like how he carries certain things up until this point, it does bother me, and I think it has had an impact on me, but also my siblings too. It's a conversation that we have um, all the time, literally all the time. And it's hard to accept. It's like that tough pill to swallow, to realize that he probably is never going to change, because he has to have that intrinsic desire to want to change. If I'm mentioning something that like, hey dad, like I felt the way you did this, the response is always, well, you did this when you were this age, or you did this or you did that. And I was like, it's not the blame game. I'm telling you how I feel. A lot of times I don't expect rebuttal, when I'm telling you that I feel a way. So, I say not one man on this planet is perfect. So I feel like a lot of times when I do come to him with certain issues, it's almost like he's perfect, like in this regard. And I feel like where I am, 29, be 30, next month. Um, and I just feel like I had a difficult time like growing up. I always got to tell myself like that, it's still my dad. At the end of the day, I don't think I'm at a point where, oh, I hate him or a different thing. I don't. Hate is a very, very strong word. We weren't even allowed to say it in my household. My mom equated it with love. So I'm not going to say I hate him. I just, as I'm a man now and also about to enter the stages like fatherhood, just certain things that I can't agree with, or certain how he just like handles things.
Okay. I'm sorry. First of all, I'm sorry to hear that. Again, like you said, nobody's perfect. Everybody's family has some type of dysfunctionality. A lot of times, relationships between parents and their kids can be strained due to certain events or outcomes that have taken place. I'm kind of curious. What did you have a relationship, or let me rephrase the question. Do you know whether or not he had a relationship with his own father? Did you have a relationship with your grandfather? Like, what was that like, if that is the case?
So growing up, from what I hear, because I was a baby at the time, from what I hear, I heard that my grandpa used to run the streets and different things like that. And he was there because my dad's mom, I don't know her too much, so I barely call her grandma. She's Brenda to me. But she abandoned my dad when he was maybe like 12, and my uncle might have been like 8. So my dad's always basically had to like fend for himself and be on his own, because also around that time, my grandpa was like doing his own thing. But one thing I can say is that my grandpa met a lovely woman in 1998. They got married in 99, and I think she changed him for the better. So if my grandpa wasn't there, he was there, but if he wasn't there in certain aspects back when my dad was like a kid, he definitely made up for it through us. Super supportive, always just like, even when I got the job at Dell State in Free Area High School, they threw me a dinner at their house. Like, yo, we're so proud of you. Not many people are like doing this and things like that. It's like, I just said to myself, I got to call them and tell them I bought a house. I didn't even tell them yet. But I know they're going to be like ecstatic about that. And, they always give me like that reassurance and things like that. And I think that's something I didn't really receive like from my dad. So a lot of the things that I do receive from them and even like other individuals, I don't get that. The minute I say like, oh yeah, I got a job and I got a $20,000 increase, the first thing my dad says, like, when you gonna break me off? And I'm like, no congrats, like no nothing. It's just like, you're just worried about your own personal gain. And at the fact of the matter is, I don't owe you anything. You should be, proud that your son is like not on the streets, like selling drugs and doing all these other things. I'm doing something. And like I said, I don't owe you nothing. I don't get a job to put money in my dad's pockets. So he's always been like selfish in that regard. Like he can see a lump sum of money. We don't see any of it. But the minute, we get money, all hell breaks loose. And, I still remember like this one story when I was in school, we all get refund checks. So I lived in a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment on campus. The following year, I became an RA and I got a refund check maybe of like $5,000. To this day, my dad will say that I'm selfish because I didn't give them money to like help out around the house. Now, you guys aren't poor. We didn't have like no catastrophic like things like happen to the house and things like that. So what am I giving you my money for where you guys don't even care of what I got going on in school? I call home to see if someone can help me get a $40 algebra book. No one can help me, but you're clocking everything that I do. If I come with a new pair of sneakers, I can do that with my refund check. At the end of the day, it's my money. And it's like literally like that. Like it's been like that my entire life. You know, I've been paying rent since I was like 16, maybe 15. You know, when I had a summer job, my daddy'd be like, "Oh, you got to give me like $100 like a month or whatever, or every 2 weeks." So when I got in grad school, I quit one of my old jobs. I worked at a call center to basically be in grad school full time. So I got a GA position. I got $1,700 a month. A month. We got paid monthly. So he was just going to try to charge me $500 a month for rent. Now, why would you do that to your son, who's one obtaining he's furthering his education and getting a master's degree, and then I already don't get a lot of money. I just bought a car, so I still already have my own personal bills, and I got to make this $1,700 like stretch across an entire month. So there's times I couldn't go out. You know, I got to pay my car insurance, pay my car note, pay my cell phone bill on top of you wanted 500. So I had to physically show him my check. This is what I get paid per month. So he was just like, so what about like $300 a month? And I'm like, why are you charging me? Period. You know, I'm not like one of those lazy people like in the house that's gonna expect like mommy and daddy to do everything. At this time, I'm like 24, 25 at the time. So if there's no waters in the house, I'll buy waters. That's not a you know, I'll do that. If we ran out of laundry detergent, like I'll do that, but like don't try to set this parameter where you just need me to just give you all this money. And then like every time you get money, or say I buy myself some wings, or you're selfish because you didn't like buy me wings. I don't have to. I already don't get a lot of money. So if I want to do that for myself, I should be able to do that for myself. And I will always stick to this one term. There's more to being a parent than just paying the bills. It's so much more. And you know, he tried to like kind of guilt trip me, like, well, you know, I make everything like running here. Okay, that's perfectly fine, but there's still other aspects in regards to support, reassurance, and different things like that. Because to me, it's just like I'm busting my butt to get my master's and get this little bit of money, and then I got to come home and basically give you $300 a month for what? A room? I got a curfew from when I come in. I can't come in past 2 o'clock because they'll say like, "Oh, this not college. You can't do that." Okay, I understand that. If I'm coming home late, I'll just stay at a friend's house, or I'll just like let you know. Then it's like I tried to meal prepping, you know, for work, and you know, when I was in grad school, food is expensive. So he'll be like, "Oh, so you think you could just be in here and just cook for yourself?" I'm making lunches and breakfast, so when I leave out in the morning, I don't have to spend money, because we all know to get a good meal, you spend more than $12 in this economy. So you think if you spend almost like $15 a day on breakfast and lunch, that's already $30 just for those two things. And Lord knows if my mom cooked or something like that, so I want to come home to a meal prep that I had. I come home, he's eating one. Like, what are you doing? But when you have certain things in the fridge, like your name is on it, or you know, no one's like allowed to touch it, or like don't touch my juice and things like that. So it's a power dynamic thing. It's always my. But when someone else tries to do it, like you're the most selfish person like in the world. And I never like got that concept. And me, I've never been a selfish person. I mean, you know this, like I will literally give someone the shirt off my back if I have it. Even if like donations things come up, like you know, about like one of the coaches passed, I think their mother-in-law passed away. I just bought a house. So I was honest, like, you know, I don't have it right now because I got to get work done to the house. But if I did, because of the person that I am, I would do that. I can't necessarily say the same thing like about my dad, but you know, as I get older, I'm starting to realize that I think my dad is just dealing with his own traumas, and he doesn't even realize that as time goes on, he's pushing everybody he cares about away, because I shouldn't feel like that. You know, we live 15 minutes away from each other, if that. And the fact that we haven't talked in like maybe 5, 6 months, realistically speaking. And to me, that's kind of crazy. I talked to my dad's brother. I asked him, like, can you go 5, 6 months without talking to your kids? and you don't even know why.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's like a pride thing, like he doesn't like want to call me and things like that. But like that angers me. That upsets me. That someone can like be like that, like towards their like child. And I think that it's teaching me a life lesson of the person who I don't want to be as I make this, transition and journey into like fatherhood. Like I would never be that way. My dad worked 7 days a week, and my uncle said this first thing he said was like, when do you have time for your family? But then my dad would guilt trip me when I would be hanging with my frat brothers and things like that. Oh, they're not your family. They do more for me than you do. They're that listening ear. And it doesn't even have to be monetary, like they're just supportive, like graduations, they take off. And, my mom and dad, they'll come to that too. But it was points in time when I got my master's. It's like, do I even want to invite him? Because it's been times I would do a paper, and he was more pressed about me being a designated driver to take him and my mom to the bar for her birthday, knowing that I had a paper due the next day. So when we got back in at 2 o'clock in the morning, you know who was at the kitchen doing their paper till 5 a.m.? I was. No one even asked, did you submit the paper? What grade did you get on it? Something so small, just a simple question, and no one even bothered to ask. So why should I invite you to my celebration for me getting my master's degree, where I feel like you didn't even support me throughout that entire journey? So I'm a very independent person, and I've always been that way. Like I'll always find a way, because sometimes I feel like I can't rely on my dad to be in my corner, like in that regard. So, when you think about it holistically, like that hurts, like deep down inside, it doesn't feel good, because like I always say, like your parents should be your number one supporters through anything, no matter what you
Absolutely.
choose to do. Like if I wanted to sell t-shirts, like they need to be backing me. Okay.
Right.
Even if you don't buy me supplies, promote it, send it, show your friends and things like that. And I never
Right.
felt supported in that regard. Like I got kicked out in 2019, like before I came to Dell State. I was in a very, I don't know, no one really knows it, but I was in a very rough situation when I got there. Got kicked out after getting my master's. I got kicked out like in August. Ended up finding the place where I'm at now. I couldn't pay my rent for almost like 2 months, because we all know Dell State's HR is a little slow. So it took me a while to get like my first check. So when I did get my first check, I'm paying rent. I'm paying back rent now. So I didn't fully get caught up until tax season, until the following year, to like use some of that money to like pay off my back rent. So if I'm in November, I was paying off September. And then I got to pay off October and December. So I had to finally get caught up. But no one knows that I had to go through those trials and tribulations to get to like where I am today. And I'm driving back and forth for an hour and 30 minutes every single day. Every day.
Yeah.
Like that, and I was, God thank for COVID when we got to work from home. But I couldn't imagine like still doing that back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I switched bank accounts, and then Dell State didn't tell me that I got a paper check. And then I thought I was going to get paid and didn't get paid, had to wait till Monday, went the weekend broke. Friends want to go out. I'm like, I'm sitting in the house. I don't got no money. So it was just a very rough time, like mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, and things like that. And even when I did get like kicked out, I felt the way because no one even contacted me like, yo, like, where you about to stay at? And I resented my mom for a little bit too, because like she allowed for him to kick me out, as her son. I did expect her to be like, he's not going nowhere. My dad is so used to people appeasing him and him getting his way. I think my mom succumbed to that and just allowed him to do it. Like, why are you helping me pack my bag? Like, literally, where am I going to go?
Wait. Who helped you pack your bag?
My mom. And it's like, you can't like call like none of your friends or things like that. I'm like, why is this even like a conversation? You should be go downstairs like, yo, like y'all just need to talk later. Everybody just need to go to bed and just sleep on it and just talk about it tomorrow. Like, no, I got kicked out like at 9:30 at night. I had to call like one of my line brothers or whatever, and I had to drive over there, and I'm packing my car with all my stuff. I lived out of my car for a minute because I didn't want to bombard all my things in his apartment. So I would have to go downstairs and go get clothes out of a bag and then stuff it in my duffel bag, like to take a shower, wash up, and things like that. And around this time, my grandma was alive, and she was just like, "So where are you going to stay?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm with a friend right now." But also around that time, she had a heat stroke, so she started to live with my parents too. So I told her that I'm staying with a friend, and the first thing she said was, "Well, if you're going to be staying there, we got to fill those people's fridge up." And I was like, "Okay." She said, "Like, let's go to the market, let's get food, ask them what they like to eat and things like that, and just like fill their fridge up or whatever." She's like, "That's the least you can do." And I was like, "No, like you're absolutely right." So hit on my forever. I said, "Hey, what you guys like?" Filled up their fridge. I stayed there for like 2 weeks. And then one of my frat brothers, who's my landlord currently at this place now, he was just like, "Yo, you still looking for a place to stay?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm be honest, like financially, and I'm in the hiring process at Dell State." Then I already got notified that I got the job on the back end from a colleague, former colleague. And there was like, "We're really just waiting on HR just to send you like an offer letter." So I think I interviewed like in June. I didn't hear anything until like August. So I'm still saying, I'm like, I don't got no job offers. Like, what the heck am I going to do? I'm like living out of car. I'm on someone's couch. When I'm outside, they got to live in the apartment. They got to buzz me in. So I got to always call them. So if I did want to go out, it's like, will I ever get back in the house? Because they can go to sleep. Like, it's literally a time I sat in my car for like 2 hours because I was just calling because they wouldn't answer the phone. And then he finally woke up like, "Yo, bro, like my fault. Like I was asleep." And I was like, "Yeah, I can't do this no more. Like this is like so much." But like no one knows that. Like, I walked into work at Dell State every day, happy go lucky, first day, second day, the next couple months, and like literally like no one will know what it took for me to like get there. And like even like having like not having a lot of money, I still found a way there every single day. Rather if it was via bus, going halfway, or just driving all the way up there. I maxed out my credit cards, like trying to like put gas in my car, feed myself because I wasn't getting no constant income yet. I still didn't get a paycheck. I literally didn't get paid till October. I went the whole month of September not getting paid from Dell State. And I'm like, I cannot live my life like this, all because my dad kicked me out. And this all really could have been avoided. But I say there is a blessing in disguise with a lot of those things. I got to be self-sufficient, live on my own, find a way. And like now, I've been here the last 4 years, but now I'm transitioning. I'm like, just close on the house and things like that. So I'm a firm believer that sometimes things do happen for a reason. I may not like how it happened, but it unfolded the way it was supposed to unfold.
Facts. Facts. I mean, everything but you just said there's a lesson in all of it. Because again, even though we were new with each other, there was a connection. I don't know if it was because we were both, Greek affiliated or whatever, but I saw it, I'm like, look, come on, let's talk, bro. I want to talk to you. You making this trip, ain't nothing to laugh about. I used to do that at my other former job in North Carolina, driving that hour and 40 minutes each way. I was like, what's going on? And then that's when we started really to dive a little deeper in each other's lives. And I'm like, so we talked about we talked about the similarities in our journeys. I was like, yeah, I get it. Um, but like you said, everything happens for a reason. There were lessons to be learned for you, and you recognize that. And even as you were going through that whole entire transition and the journey of navigating through your new career, and you're still dealing with this stuff on the back end on a personal level, you were still learning something every day. And I tell people all the time, if you ever really want to know a person's true nature, you want to see a person's true character, let a tragic event happen. Let something that isn't on an up and up take place. And then you'll see people's true nature come out, whether they'll support you or not. There is definitely a difference when people pray with you versus pray on you. You know what I mean? And that was something I even had to learn. And that it cost me some things that I held value at one time. But so for you, I'm proud of you. You have definitely come a long way. Even, I mean, and for you, it may have been a long way. And even me hearing this now, just from the time when you officially transitioned from leaving from Dell State into your new role, you have you have grown so much. I am so super proud of you, man, because I know it wasn't easy. Even leading up to the decision where you decided to leave Dell State to go to your current role. I know that wasn't easy in itself. And that's just on a professional level. That's not even talking about the stuff that was happening with your dad and the family dynamic. So but I want to put it here, the point blank period, that I'm very proud of you. And you continue to inspire me and keep me going. I'm like, boy, these young people out here doing it. Let me stretch it out a second and let me make sure I can still walk the walk, So I appreciate how much you're going after what it is that you want, but you're still keeping a level of integrity and accountability always in the forefront in your decision making. And I am so appreciative of that, because I just don't see it as much as I used to with the younger generation. So the fact that you hold yourself to a standard, and I know that your relationship, being a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, I know that there are certain principles that all of our organizations have for us to uphold on a regular basis, or at least we make the effort to do so. I think that who you are obviously was instilled before you became that member of Alpha. I think the relationship you had with your grandfather had influenced you, as well as that of your grandmother. That played a very pivotal part in your life as far as the man that you are today, because I know those relationships were very, very close for you. And even with you mentioning the fact that you still have a relationship with your uncle, your dad's brother, that speaks volumes. So I'm glad that you had the support from other male figures around you to help you and protect you when needed. And my heart goes out to you, that the fact that the one man who helped bring you into this world, for whatever reason, who's dealing with his own, like you said, dealing with his own demons, is not where he needs to be for you at this point. So that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. You mentioned the fact that you two are getting ready to embark upon a new journey as far as fatherhood is concerned. So a question that I have is, how do you view fatherhood now versus before you received the news?
So I feel like I look at it in like such a different light now, because a lot of my friends like have kids. So a lot of times I think I try to pull certain aspects of what I do like and what I don't like, and also just like taking away from my upbringing as well. And I tell myself I would never want to put no one through what I went through. Because like growing up with certain things, a lot of things my dad would say to me, sometimes it came off as like jealousy. Oh, you only know these things because you went to school. Well, I'm supposed to learn in school, correct? I mean, what's the point of going if you're not going to learn anything? And that's, at every level, whether it's high school, college, et cetera, et cetera. My dad didn't finish high school. So sometimes when he does say things like that, it does seem like jealousy, like in my opinion. But my perception of basically like fatherhood now is like to always be there and be supportive, and honestly like put your kid first. I think I'm still going to continue to be the unselfish, like genuine person, because I want my son to feel, and I say time and time again, like I think God does things for a reason. I think like he wanted me to basically like have a son to fix the cycle. Like I said, like my grandpa like wasn't really there in the beginning part of like my dad and things like that. And he was, he was young doing his thing. And I think my dad embodied that. So the change like starts with me as I enter like this new journey to teach like my son, like, this isn't how it's supposed to be. I just look at it from a whole different aspect. Like I'm my son's number one fan. That's how I look at it.
As it should be.
No matter what sports you're doing, no matter if like what business like adventure, okay, how do you need me to support you? like in that regard. And that's how I am with anybody. You know, you got a business, okay, let me contribute. Someone's doing community service, okay, how can I do this? How can I do that? You know, those are like the lessons that I learned, like going through like this entire like transition. And I mean,
So
I'm super excited for fatherhood, basically, like overall, because
I
I
could tell you
I
got
have
a
someone
glow. You
that
got you got that glow. I don't know if it's that last dragon glow, but you got that glow about you, like you ready.
yeah, like they have someone like they're dependent on me. They're really dependent on me. And like now, every decision that I make up until this point is not, you know, just like for myself. It's like not for my girlfriend. Like it's literally like for him. Like the house was like literally for me to build a family. You know, me getting to like a better job was be able to be in the financial space to
Mhm,
support like my family.
mhm,
So, you know, I'm very strategic about basically every move that I make. Did I want to stay at Dell State? I did. Don't get me wrong. I made a great connection with the kids. I still check in with a lot of them today. You know, they
mhm,
still look at me as like that mentor, but like I want to be that too. I want to be the
mhm,
person, you know, you can talk to me about whatever. I'm
mhm,
not going to be judgmental and different things like that because one, sometimes I think we don't take a step back. I was a kid. You know, I did stupid things. So, you know, creating that environment to where they can feel comfortable, like, you know, I got a DUI before. So if my son get a DUI, like, what am I just going to sit up here upset at the world? Like, oh my God, I told you don't drive drunk. No, it's never I told you so. Okay, let's sit down and have a conversation. Like, I'm mad, but also let this be a learning experience. If you do think that you're going to go out and things like that and get drunk, catch an Uber or have someone be a designated driver or something like that. Like, I'm not going to not talk to you for 2 weeks because I'm so disappointed. Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed. Don't get me wrong. But those are like the key moments of how you can basically build your relationship. And it's not like, oh, I told you so. No, this is a life
mhm.
lesson. Because when I sat in like a holding cell, I am not supposed to be here right now. Being around the other people that was in there, I mean, I'm not supposed to be there. But my dad like didn't talk to me for a couple weeks and things like that. He was like so
Mm.
upset. And I'm like, come on, he drives drunk all the time. Like probably still to this day. So, you know, what lesson did you teach me? So, you know, I'm all about like life lessons because life just keeps lifing. We both know
Mm.
that.
Yeah, we do. We do. What um with your father not really being present in your life right now, what future milestone events you think will be difficult for you?
For me, I turned 30 next month. That's a milestone. I can say that I was able to get through all of my 20s and being in the climate of Philly right now with like all the violence and things like that. A lot of people can't say they reached 30 and accomplished a lot of the things that I accomplished. And then like also like my dad doesn't know that I'm having a kid because I also feel it's like, why should I bless you with the opportunity of knowing that I'm having a child when you can't even pick up the phone and like call me and you don't even know why we don't
Wait a
talk?
m- wait, your dad doesn't know you're having a kid?
Nope.
Does anybody in your family else know?
Everyone knows, even my coworkers know. Everyone knows except him.
And
My
you don't
dad
think so
didn't
you
come
don't
to
think like
mind
anybody in your
ago.
family have told him or
No,
mentioned it?
he would call me. Everyone who I told, I just like I asked him. I said, "Can you respect my wishes and
Mhm,
keep this with you?" And I will tell my dad on my own terms if I feel like telling him because, and it's not like a revenge thing, but I want him to wallow and sit in what you missed out on because you wanted to be selfish. There's a lesson behind everything. You want to be selfish and be stuck in your ways. Now you can't be a part of this celebration of bringing in a grandchild by your firstborn son. I don't feel the need to tell him like at all. And I'm standing super tall on that. I've had many conversations with my grandpa, girlfriend's mom, etc. Like, why should he know? For what? So you can go to work and be like, oh, my son's having a kid. You weren't there. You didn't talk to
mm,
me for 5 or 6 months. So why should I even tell you? There's no reason for me to tell you. You can't, you know, just a backstory when my mom and dad's like separation kind of like happened like late last year. Um, I knew holidays were going to be different.
mhm,
So I spent a little bit of money to get everybody a Christmas gift like last year, and
mhm,
they all were under my tree at my house. My sister
mhm.
came over and she was like, I could take this to daddy or whatever. It's now August 3rd. I still never even received a freaking thank you for getting him a Christmas gift. So you can't even tell me thank you. You think I'm gonna tell you that I'm having a kid? And everyone, my sister, my brother, and my mom has checked him on that. He always says, like, yeah, I was wrong. I should give Jabree a call. I'm still waiting.
Wow.
But the narrative now is, oh, Jabree and my brother have sided with my mom. There's no sides. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. Whatever transpired in y'all marriage, just like you always told me growing up, that's between y'all.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not ever going to pick a side. Like, you both are my parents.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter who did what. I'm like, don't call me to try to like build this army against my mom. Like, I'm not doing that. So yeah, on today at 11:56 at August 3rd, my dad still does not know. And I think about that almost every day. I've even thought about like sending like a text, like sending like a long text, like there's no need to respond, just letting you know, like I'm having a kid, you won't be a part of his life until you fix what you got going on, because I'm not exposing myself to that toxicity. Like, I'm not at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because kids are like sponges, they pick up on everything. So what if I do have it with my dad for a day and he pick up on the little small things that he does? No, I'm not doing that. I had to go through that.
Right.
I refused. So yes,
Wow.
he does not know. I even had a dream that the baby was born. I took a picture like, hey, just had a son, this is what you missed out on since you can't pick up the phone and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you gonna change your act then? And he is gonna feel away. But did I do anything? Nope, I didn't. Because I always felt as though growing up, I always had to be the bigger person because I lived in his home. I don't have to do that now. I don't live with you. You have no
Mm-hmm.
control, no power over me. You don't have access to my bank accounts, cell phone, none of that. I was on all that stuff with you, but not anymore. I'm an adult now. So no, I'm not gonna appease you. And one of his friends, my mom told me that one of his friends told him, hey, you need to call your boys. You like, how are you really walking around and going to sleep and waking up every single day and you don't even call your boys?
So he doesn't talk to your other brother as well?
No. And I think I gave you like a little brief background. My brother was going through some legal things.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Mm-hmm.
currently like on house arrest and things like that, but he'll get off because he's been doing like really good like with it.
Mm-hmm.
But when he went to court, my mom said that my dad was mad because no one called him to update him on what happened. My brother was just like, why didn't he just call me? Because that would have showed me that you took interest on what
Mm-hmm.
transpired basically like at court. You
Mm-hmm.
expected me to call you. He's like, I didn't have to call you. I could have, but as my
Mm-hmm.
dad, I would think that you would have took 1 second out of your day. Hey, how did court go? What did they say? How long is your house arrest? What do you have to do? What are like the next steps? Blah, blah, blah. Does that affect your job? Like, those questions really reassure someone like, yo, he does care.
Mm-hmm.
So, my brother looks at it in a totally like different light too. And I think like Father's Day passed by. I ain't text him for what?
Mm-hmm.
Father's Day is a day to celebrate your father, all the things they've done for you, amazing things. He didn't do shit for me this last couple of years. Nothing like at all.
Mm-hmm.
So why should I even send that out? I told him happy birthday in February. I sent a text. But then I hear from
Mm-hmm.
my sister, he complained that I sent him a text at 8:30 at night. But I can remember 5 birthdays, might be 30, that I had to call him on my birthday and be like, yo, was you gonna call me? Oh yeah, it's 9 o'clock. The day's over. My birthday was at midnight. So you had almost 24 hours to call me and I had to call you. Or you promised me that you're gonna like take me out and you don't do it. But Father's Day last year, you blowing my phone up. Hey, like, I know y'all took your mom out. You taking me out? Yeah, whatever. We'll take you out. We took him out. But I never, got that. So I'm big on keeping your word. You never kept your word with me either. So it's like another thing that I just can't agree with. If I told you that I was going to Dell State for that, for the funeral service and things like that, that's my
Mm-hmm.
promise I kept to you. Unless
Right.
something crazy happened, emergency, which things come up, I'm pretty sure
Mm-hmm.
you'll understand. But I'm telling you, like, hey, I'm going to meet you here. I'm going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. I get it, man, because look, my relationship, everybody has a strong relationship, a stronger relationship with one parent than the other, but sometimes it's a lot more trickier than that. And it's unfortunate because one thing about time, the time does not wait for anybody. It still keeps going. It doesn't stop and pause when it wants to. Just because you need a breather, it's still going to keep going. So when those minutes and those hours go by, guess what? A new day has arrived. So that speaks volumes. We don't have time. We don't have much time to waste or just be idle. You have to be intentional. And so the fact that, your dad hasn't not or has chosen to not engage with you and your brother, that's pretty sad, because again, you guys are grown men. You guys are dealing with life happens, and missing out on important milestones, especially with you and your rest of your siblings. And it's sad, man, because we just don't know. Tomorrow's not promised to any one of us, just to kind of, take a left in a way, when your grandmother had passed away unexpectedly, like that, for me, it was a no-brainer. I didn't even tell you. I was like, I'm up, I'm gone, boop, boop, because that's what you're supposed to do, and this was before even when my mom passed. I was like, I want to be there, because just the conversations you and I had, I've never done this before. I've never lost somebody close before. I'm like, bro, you don't need to come to work. Let's take care of your family, this, that, and the other. And I was like, I just need to know what time it is, where it is, and I'll be there. And that's it. That was something I felt I had needed to be there for you. Just to let you know we had your back. And so, with this, again, this is a happy occasion. You got your son coming into the world. I'm like, look, this is the time when you really are supposed to come together and celebrate life, what it has to offer. You have a legacy coming, and it's just unfortunate. We're all dealing with things, but there's just way too many resources and a lot of out there support to where people can get the help they need to heal and live back in the present life. So
Yeah. And he told my mom that after they separated, he told me verbally on the phone, if your mom is going to be there, those will just be events that I just can't attend. So my mom knew about I told my mom about like the baby and things like that. So she called him to try to like get him to be like, yo, like we're gonna, like, we have kids, they're grown, but we have kids. They're gonna be get married, having kids themselves, and just doing all these like life events. And as parents, like, we have to be there. Verbatim out of his mouth, he said, if you're gonna be there, those will just be events that I have to miss. So hearing her say that to me, and knowing that that probably actually did come out of his mouth, was just like, okay, why would I invite you to the gender reveal? Why would I invite you to my birthday? Why would I invite you to a baby shower? My mom is going to be there. She's, I could say since they separate, I think we've gotten 1,000 times closer. We already were close, but definitely like 1,000 times like closer. But just like hearing that, I'm like, bro, there's never going to be an event where my mom's not there.
Right.
So you can't put your pride aside for one moment or one evening to be supportive of your kids. Like, and that's where I'm coming from. That's my standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely.
We all got to bite the bullet sometimes. I'm pretty sure we've been at work. Of course, there's coworkers that you just don't want to be in the room with, but we're at work. You know what I mean? And you got to work with them and have conversations and things like that, because it's your job. When you leave, it's like, whatever, you can say F them, whatever you want to do. You know what I mean? But you had to put your pride aside in that regard. And like him saying that really showed me like, yo.
Yeah. So what have you learned about yourself regarding grief and loss? Because this is some heavy grieving right here, man. This is, you're grieving the loss of your relationship with your father. You're grieving the secondary losses of what could have, should have been. Like, what have you learned about yourself when it comes to grief, period? Because you mentioned a lot of it during our conversation here.
I definitely realize it's the burden that I carry. You talk about Greek life. It's the burden that I carry almost every single day. And although that I'm trying to get to a point to accepting, I'm never going to be okay with it. And I got to live with that every single day. Even if someone mentions my dad, I get upset because it's, I think like that's my trigger point. Like he's always been my Achilles heel.
Okay.
For like my entire life, because like I do want a father-son relationship, but if you don't want it, why am I putting in more work than you? And I'm the son. I shouldn't be. We should be able to set up something like, hey, every 2 weeks, like let's go to happy hour or something like that, or let's just like go out. It's like literally like nothing. So one thing I am realizing about myself is like I could say that, I'm accepting it, but it still does make me feel away. It does. And I got to a point now, like I can't change him. Like he literally, like he is who he is. Am I okay with that? No, I'm not. But I do have to get like to a point of acceptance. And now my thought process is like completely changed now with me like about to have a son, because I can't wallow in that while I'm also trying to raise a young man as well. Only thing I can do is just be there in his corner and be all the things that my dad wasn't to me.
Yeah.
Showing up to extracurriculars or showing up to report card conferences and like different things like that, just showing that you care.
Yeah.
But I think my dad, like being so selfish, has developed me into a genuine person, like overall. Like literally, because I asked myself, like, a lot of people in this world don't have some of the things that we have. And I think just being like in a fraternity, like doing a community service and just we're working at a high school, I get a kick out of that. I love talking to kids because I say time and time again, I don't know what they go through when they exit the building. When they come in school, maybe they be their safe haven. So I'm real. I think about that a lot, like when I like talk to kids and things like that. So I think that overall, what this has taught me, just opened my eyes and just broadened my scope of what other people may go through at home, and then also like who I want to be, but also realizing that my dad has to have the intrinsic desire to want to change himself. And if he doesn't have that, and if he's okay with just like being like that, he's going to be miserable. And that's like a part of the acceptance piece that I think that I come to terms with almost like every day. Like he's almost like, it'll almost be 50. And a lot of times with someone like about to be like 50, some people are just stuck in their ways.
True. Very true.
As you get older, and you can't change them like at all. He has to want to change for himself. So being his age, realizing he does nothing wrong, it's just like I feel like I'm just crying wolf at this point. Like what's really going to change? Like it's like, okay, that's, you know what, that is my dad. That's my dad. That's who he's going to be.
Yeah.
So I think a part of like the grieving about like the relationship, I think just day by day, just slowly just accepting it, still feeling the way, but definitely just accepting it like for what it is.
Do you feel do you feel that where you are with the acceptance, your spiritual practice came into play, as far as how you navigate the treacherous waters of grief and loss to get into the point where you're dealing, having hope, you have a brighter outlook again because you have this beautiful blessing coming in a matter of a few short months. How has your spiritual practice been surrounding this whole situation?
I think I've been becoming more in tune with myself, like overall, because it's just like I'm worried about who Keenan is, but who's Jabree, like overall throughout this entire process. So I find myself, I pray on things so much. I prayed every day. Should I call my dad? Should I call my dad? Should I call my dad? Every day. I take walks every morning, just like thinking about it. That's like the first thing I think about when I get up. And I'm just like, nah, I'm not gonna call him. So, and I just like I said before, I learned to just really just like accept it, but spiritually, mentally, like focus, physically, emotionally, and things like that. I think I've really just been coming more in tune, like with myself, overall, and it's not trying to worry about the coulda, shoulda, wouldas. Like again, I pray on it literally every day. And then my grandma, she was like my other like number one fan. I asked myself like, what would she do? Knowing her, she probably would have told me to pick up the phone, but I think I'm too prideful to pick up the phone. I just can't. Like honestly, I really just can't, because I'm gonna pick up the phone and then what's gonna be solved? I basically did what I've been doing my entire life, and that's appeasing, and I just can't. I can't do that.
If you had an opportunity to talk to your younger self, like your 5-year-old self, maybe your 12-year-old self, and even your 18-year-old self, 5, 12, 18, if you had an opportunity to talk to them, talk to yourself at those different times in your life, what would you say when it comes regarding your father?
Don't set unrealistic expectations.
Mm,
I think I set expectations for my dad and I was always let down every
mm,
single time. To me, I come from a domestic violence family. My dad put his hands on my mom. My
mm,
expectation was to think that my dad would teach me how to, one, treat a woman, but if you treat my mom like that, that's almost giving me the green light to say like, oh, when I get mad, I can go do the same thing. And it shouldn't be that way. To me, after that happened, you should have set all of us down. I got mad. I'm never going to do that again, and you shouldn't do that. But you created an excuse for yourself.
mhm,
Oh, because he was like angry. But definitely don't set unrealistic expectations and sitting there just waiting, thinking that things are just going to change if that person doesn't want to change for themselves. And just taking like the high road, like overall, like I think back, I wish that I would have just opened my own bank account for like from Jump Street. My dad
mhm.
controlled my money, like it was literally all about power. My dad would cut my cell phone off, even though it was paid, because we had a disagreement or argument. That's petty to me.
Mhm.
So, and I wish that I could really speak up when I was younger, but I'm a firm believer is like, if you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all.
Mm,
So a lot of times I didn't say anything because one, I lived in the household, and then two, I'm not going to be disrespectful in someone else's household too.
mm, okay.
So I wish that I got to a point to accepting back then, but I always just gave it hope, gave it hope, gave it hope, gave it hope, and was let down
Mm.
every time, every single time. So if I had to tell all three of those ages that you gave my younger self, is like, really don't set unrealistic expectations, because I would have been accepted it a long time ago.
Jabree, I love you, brother. You're my nephew, man. I've adopted you. I have one nephew already, but you my family. You an older nephew I adopted. So I am just so appreciative of you sharing a part of yourself with me and my audience regarding this heavy topic, man. Because trust me, you are not the only young man out there that's dealing with issues with their parents, especially estranged relationships with when it comes to the father. So if you could tell the fellas out there in the world who are dealing with similar circumstances with their own relationship with their father, what would it be? um I know you mentioned about not to set no expectations, for your younger self, but I'm curious, what would be the message be for other young men who are dealing with their own estranged relationship with their fathers? What would you say?
That's a very good question. Um, I think for individuals who are going through things like with their father and things like that, and again, their background, the story can just be completely different, like from mine, but still, crazy relationship overall. But I would say I would try to like talk to them, and if their dad doesn't want to hear it, I think that's where you get where that acceptance piece like comes in. Try to go to counseling or things like that, or sit down with them and ask like, why are you like this? You know, I'm your son. I'm expecting you to be that way, but also like, don't sit on it for so long, because all it does is it's a snowball effect. Because I feel like I can get to a point where you never see me mad, like really mad before. No one wants to see me that way, like at all, because I'm not.
Think you come close, but it was for some other circumstances, but we won't go
Yeah,
into that.
but like no one wants to see me that way. But also, I will tell them like, address your issues like head on, because
Mhm.
I will say, get therapy. I think that everyone needs to talk to someone, because I originally went to therapy for the death of my grandmother, because I was in a very dark space. But as I started to talk more, a lot of the issues came from my father. A lot
Mm,
of the issues. So it's just like opening Pandora's box,
mm,
basically, like as I dug deeper. And I feel like one session ended about my grandma talking about grief and things like that. And then every session became about my dad. what he did do and things like that. So, my advice would be to get counseling and try to address those issues like head on, so you can have a better understanding of why some of those things may transpire, or why the relationship could be the way it is. Talk to your grandparents. They might also have a better understanding because of their upbringing, why they're that way. Just, try to shape your mind into why it may be that way. So, that I think that would be some of the advice. Like, there's no age limit on when you should get like counseling and things like that. I'm currently like not in counseling like now. I haven't been in counseling for a while because I feel like I've been pretty great, mentally, physically, emotionally, like spiritually and things like that. But I think it's just like I can be on a counseling session literally talking about my dad for 2 hours, but what's changing? What's literally changing? I'll be talking to a stranger just about all my issues, and they can give me different tips and tactics and things like that. But if their father, your dad doesn't want to change, the world goes on, life goes on.
Yeah.
Because you'll literally just be in this state of depression and having anxiety and things like that. And if your dad doesn't care or even checking to see if you are like that, what's changing?
Yeah.
So, my number one thing would definitely get counseling and get into a point where you can accept it for what it is. Now, if the relationship is worth mending, if that other father does want to like fix things, I say fix it, work on it, take those baby steps. If we don't talk every day, let's say, hey, we're gonna talk 2 days a week. We always talk about setting SMART goals, because sometimes I feel like that we try to set. If I had to go big picture, I would be like, I want my dad to be like this. That's too big of an expectation. I literally had to start small. Like, hey, I want my dad to call me 2 times a week. Just check in. I'll reciprocate it. So that would be like my number one like thing if I had to give anyone, that's in my current situation, like some advice.
My last question. If and when it gets to this point, what would you tell your son about your father?
I think I would never badmouth my dad in front of my son. I would never do that.
Okay.
I would just say, even if me and my dad still aren't on good terms, like, hey, you have a grandfather. I do want you to meet him, but you'll meet him when I think it's comfortable for you to meet him. And I'm saying that for a reason. You may not understand it now, but you will. And we could talk about those stories when you get of age and things like that. Like when you get a little older, to understand like my reasoning why. Because I would never put you in any type of situation blind or what you're getting yourself into. Because, my dad may not be like that with him. I feel like that when people have grandkids, they tend to be a little bit more easier on the grandkids. Like, they don't really beat them and they get them anything they want. They let them eat candy all day.
Right.
But
Spoil them.
When it was
take them
me,
back on.
it's just like, oh, you're on punishment, because grandparents can really just take them and go. And I'm just like, nah, that's not happening. But, I would definitely have a conversation like with him when he won't know once he's like younger. But if the relationship is still like that, like I would definitely let him know. But he'll have so many other like male figures, he might not even ask. Because I think that's also what helped me throughout like my journey too. Like I have a lot of male figures, especially like being in the fraternity, who have been almost like fathers to me. And I think that helps. It makes me know that like I'm not alone. Like I have like some of my frat brothers, they are fathers, and they're just like, yo, call me. Like my parents and skill style might not work with like your son, but I'm just let you know some of the things that like I do. So definitely having like, frat brothers, mentors, friends, like in your corner, like in that regard, it definitely does like help. And he'll feel that love from them. And we'll have a conversation about his grandfather after the fact. But I'm hoping, and I don't think this is an unrealistic expectation. I'm hoping that it does not get to that point where he's 7 or 8 years old and he still hasn't met my dad. That'd just be crazy. Because later, it's not like I'm going to keep him a secret this entire time. He'll find out.
Right.
regardless of somehow. But I need my dad to understand like why I didn't tell him
Right.
and be okay with my decision as well. Like I am an adult, like I'm not a kid anymore.
And yeah. So, Jabree, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I so appreciate it. And you said so many gems out there that I hope a lot of people really take to heart, especially the fellas. What you said about talking to somebody, whether it's a counselor, a therapist, a grief coach. If you are in an organization, talk to your fellow brothers out there, or talk to the mother figures. Just talk to somebody. If those relationships, especially between that of you and your father, is just so strained that it's unbearable, and you have to get to a point where you of acceptance, for yourself, for your own peace of mind. It's very important. Grief is heavy, and it's not always about death. It's definitely about loss, and in this case it's a loss of a relationship, right now, that could eventually, God willing, will turn around down the road. But again,
Yeah.
you have to have both people involved in a relationship have to be intentional, and that's the direction that they want to go. It doesn't work with just one person. So, and for you who have been wonderful leaps and bounds in centering yourself and getting yourself ready for fatherhood, again, from the time that I met you in 2019 and now, you have evolved so much, as a good person, a genuine, authentic person, that I am very blessed and very, very, very honored to have you in my life, because you teach me things too, from the perspective that I'm not going to know, because I'm not a man. I'm not, I don't know what it's like to be a son. You have situations where you have people who have siblings or in the same household. They see things, they see the same things happen at the same time, but it impacts people differently, and that speaks volumes in itself. But all in all, that we may feel lonely, but we don't have to go through this journey alone. And
Mm-hmm.
so I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And again, for anybody out there, again, please, 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 time waits for no man. If you can't rebuild those relationships that meant so much to you at one time, build a relationship within yourself. I promise you, when you build a relationship within yourself, you'll be able to sleep at night. You
Yep.
can lay your head at rest and say, I did what I could do to be happy, to be at peace, to have joy. You don't want that toxicity in your life. You don't have to have it. You work on yourself. I promise you, those who want to be in your life will come back to you. And those who are not able to, then they have to deal with their own lessons. So, but again, thank you so much, Jabree. Again, my information is out there for anybody who would like to talk more about grief and loss. Share this video. This is a powerful video. There's a lot of us who could still take some lessons and gems about relationships with our elders, even for those of them who are not even here, because it's stuff that we carry on each and every single day. So again, Jabree, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
No problem.
I'm going to have you come back later on, because we're going to talk about what it's like for you with fatherhood. I can't wait to meet your son. And I'm like, okay, what kind of grief are you having when you're having those 2-3 o'clock mornings? And all of that. He's like, he did what? He's like, he squirted, and I can't wait to have those conversations. Like, a new pair of shoes, and the boy just put it in, like, welcome to fatherhood. But nevertheless, though, I'm so honored. Thank you so much again. And everybody, from me to you, Jabree, seriously, I heard you. But more importantly, I saw you, brother. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And for everybody else, thank you again for joining us. We'll see you in another episode of It's Not You, It's Grief. And take care, be blessed. And that's it. Bye.
See you later.
See you.
Thank you for listening, being intentional, and sharing this moment with us. We at It's Not You, It's Grief deeply understand the many facets of grieving, and we want to make sure we can be here for you. Again, thank you for listening, and tune in again wherever you subscribe to podcasts. We look forward to seeing you next time. Be well.